welcome back. I hope you've had an amazing weekend, and I know it's a busy, can be stressful time of the year, but I really hope that you find the time to relax and enjoy this beautiful season we're in. And I'm trying to do that. I'm having a blast with Vlogmas over on my other channel. It's just been so much fun, and I'm just really soaking it all in. I want to remember it all, you know what I mean? Today we're going to be reading from our devotion, Raised Devotionals by Miss Ida Mae Couch. And today's topic, or title, is Stuck on Ice. And so let's just see how God's going to minister to us today. We don't necessarily have a scripture in this one. I like to have my scriptures ready, but it does reference a story in Acts, and it tells the chapter, so that will be down in the details below in the description box. I will put that chapter down there if you want to read it. But let's just get started. Stuck on ice. It didn't snow often where I grew up. When it did, it was fun to go outside and observe how different the landscape looked covered in white fluff. One of those times I was walking near the edge of our field. There were tractor tire ruts where water had frozen. I saw movement on one of these frozen puddles, and on closer inspection, I saw a bird whose wing was stuck to the ice. It was so scared. I gently pried it loose and took it inside. I figured it was nearly frozen to death being stuck on the ice like that. My mom found a shoebox, and we put the bird inside to keep it from flying all over the house. The little bird warmed up, and it began to chirp and sing. My curiosity was bigger than my common sense, and I lifted the box lid to watch the little bird. Well, you know what happens when you open a cage. Poor old Ida Mae. Whatever is inside escapes. The little bird flew out of the box and all over the living room, flittering from one spot to the next. I yelled out to my mom, and she came running. I had to admit to her that I had accidentally let the bird out, but she didn't get angry with me. She just stood up there trying to figure out how in the world we were going to get that bird outside. We finally decided to work together to shoo it out the door. I would hold the door open while Mom would guide it in the direction. It worked. We had managed to get it out. There is a story in Acts 16 about Paul and Silas being in jail. They were locked up in the dungeon, and their feet were put in stocks. They were not going anywhere. In the night, they started singing and praying, and other prisoners listened. There was a massive earthquake that caused the prison doors to be opened, and the chains fell off the prisoners. For some reason, Paul, Silas, and all the other prisoners didn't leave. The description seems to say they stayed in their cell, but when the guard saw the doors wide open, he assumed they had all escaped, and he would be killed for not doing his job properly. So, as he was about to kill himself, Paul shouted to let him know they were all still there. The jailer was convicted in his heart that this had been an act of God, and immediately asked Paul and Silas what he needed to do to be saved, to belong to God. In fact, he and his whole family were baptized that very night. It appears that God was rescuing Paul and Silas, but he also rescued the jailer and his family. Y'all, isn't that just like God? Isn't that just like God? We think he's doing one thing, but then you see a domino effect. And that is why, oh my gosh, living for him, serving him, having a relationship with him is just so amazing. It reminds me of, this is not as dramatic as this, but it just goes to show how the story I'm going to tell you that happened to me this past weekend, it just kind of goes to show how things work out with God. So I'm in the thrift store, no surprise there, right? And there's only one register open, and I'm the third person in line. I'm at the end of the line. There's a lady ahead of me, and then there's a lady in front of us that's being checked out. So the guy walks over and he says, "I can get you on this register." Now, flesh would have said, oh, yay, and just got over there. But I told the lady in front of me, I said, ma'am, he's opening that register if you want to go over there. And she's like, oh, thank you. And as she was in line, she was like, thank you so much. She said, normally, that wouldn't happen. The person would just jump into line. I said, well, you do unto others, right? She said, you're exactly right. So she checks out, and she has 2 separate purchases. She's paying for her items, and then she wants to buy a gift card. Our thrift store, the one that we were in, offers gift cards. So the guy rang her up, and then she was like, okay, now I need to purchase a gift card. He's like, okay, hold on just a minute. And he was asking the lady next to him at the other register. He was like, I've never done this before. You're my first gift card, so let me find out what to do. Well, that lady's line was empty. And she said, you know what? She said, let me just go over there and deal with her, and then she can go ahead and check out. So instead of waiting for him to figure all this out and cause me to wait, she returned the favor and stepped over to the other line. And it was like, I didn't do what I did. First of all, I'm not bragging on myself, okay? I'm not. This is all about God. This is what I'm bringing this back to. I didn't do what I did to be like, look at me. I did what I did because I really believe you do unto others. And we've been talking about being the light, showing the love of Jesus, especially this time of year. We don't know how God is going to use us this time of year. This time of year can be very hard, can be very stressful. It can just like magnify hurts. And so I want to be more sensitive this time of year, more than any other time of year. And so I was basically, for lack of better words, quote unquote, practicing what I preached. I was showing the love of God. I was doing unto her as I would want it to be done unto me. And in doing so, the Lord said, you know what? Now I'm going to bless you because you blessed her. And he, worked it out to where she was able to go right over there to that lady that knew how to do the transaction. And I was able to check out, and I didn't have to wait any longer, for him to learn this. Not that I would have had a problem with that, but do you understand how one good deed and then God literally repaid me right then and there? And I'm not saying that's why I did it. I'm just saying that's how good God is. That is how good God is. When we do what we know is right, no matter how much our flesh may be telling us, really, Donnie, you don't have time for this. You need to go, tough luck that she didn't see the guy walk over. That's her. No. I did what I felt was right. I did what I felt the Lord would have wanted me to do. And he rewarded that. And then there's been so many things happening this week for my daughter. And I'm going to brag on her a little bit. Not in a, I shouldn't have said brag, because I don't mean to be bragging, but I'm just wanting to, I brought it to her attention. So when all the deal with Israel and all the Hamas and Palestine stuff all started happening in Israel, she, as we all have been, we were all praying, and the Lord prompted her to give up something that she loves for 1 month for Israel. And she did. And it was hard. It was, when you're giving up something that you love, it's tough, and especially a month. The Lord asked her to do it for a month, but she did it. And her month was over kind of toward the end of November. And all of a sudden, they keep getting all these blessings thrown at them. Certain things have just been happening in their life that has just been blessing after blessing after blessing. And of course, she's texting me, calling me, telling me all this and that. And she's just so in awe of all this happening. And I said, so that fast was worth it, huh? Kind of giggling. She said, well, that fast was for Israel. I said, I understand that, but God is rewarding your obedience. That's how good God is. She did what she did, because the Lord asked it of her. She obeyed him. Even though her flesh, herself, everything in her didn't want to give up what she loved for that month, she obeyed the Lord. And the Lord, I think at the time that her fast was over, some of the hostages got released, and some different things had happened. And she thought, okay, well, good, that the fast was worth it. And then boom, all these other things start happening. The Lord loves obedience. And sometimes he will ask things of us just to see how much we're willing to obey him. Things that are not pleasant, things that are uncomfortable. He may ask you to go and apologize to someone that, things are not like it needs to be between y'all, not because it's your fault. Maybe it's because of something they did. He may ask you to be the one to go and right some wrongs between you and that person. Even though it wasn't your fault, he may ask that of you. And I promise you, anything God asks you to do, when you obey him, the benefits and the reward and the blessing you get from that, and I'm not talking about just material blessings. I'm talking it could be spiritual blessings. It can deepen your walk with him. It can deepen your relationship with him. It can take you to a different level with him if we just obey. And I know it's not easy always being the bigger person. I know this. And I, quite frankly, was in a situation where something was not exactly right between me and this other person. It wasn't all of my fault. They had done things as well. But the opportunity presented itself, and I felt such an urgency from the Lord to just apologize to this person. Even though I didn't want to, even though I was like, but it's not all my fault. I mean, they have fault too. I didn't cause all of this. There was different situations and circumstances and all of this. It didn't matter. What mattered was I felt the tug to apologize to this person. And I did. I told this person that I was sorry for my part in any and all of this. And I asked them to forgive me. And y'all, it was instantaneously between me and that person. The wall came down. And to this day, we don't have that between us anymore. And then the Lord went on to bless me even more in my life because of that one act of obedience. That one act of obedience. The Lord just poured out his blessings on me. And, had he not done any of that, the sheer relief I felt was blessing enough. I did not realize how much it had been weighing me down. I didn't realize how much it had been like a little cloud over my head. Even though I didn't feel it was all my fault, it didn't matter. The Lord blessed me with lifting that load off of me. I felt completely different. I felt so much cleaner. And that was just one of his steps of cleaning me up. And then he went on even further because of that one act of obedience. You can never do too much for the Lord. You're never going to outdo him. You're never, ever, ever going to outdo him. He is going to blow your mind with blessings. It may be physical blessings. It may be spiritual blessings. But I promise you, you will never, ever, ever outdo the Lord. Obedience. I just keep hearing the word obedience. It's so important to the Lord. Obedience. I mean, think about us as parents. When we, tell our children, don't do something, or be sure you do this, or whatever the case may be, and then they mind us and they obey us and they do it. How proud does that make you as a parent feel? The same thing with the Lord. The same thing with the Lord. And the more obedient we are, the more he will trust us. And the bigger the blessings and the bigger the gifts will be that he gives us, but also sometimes the harder the thing that he requires us to do, you know? But it's always worth it. It's always worth it. I encourage you to just be open to him, be obedient to him. I promise you, I speak from experience, you're going to come out on the better end of the deal. Whatever he asks you to do, obey him. No matter how hard it is, no matter how challenging it is. First of all, he's not going to ask you to do something that he knows you're not capable of doing. So if he asks you to do it, he knows you have the ability to do it. And you're going to benefit all the way around. No doubt about it. I know from experience. I love you. I pray that you have an amazing day. And I will see you here in the next one. Bye, y'all.